Hey everyone and welcome to episode 79 of FMOE here on Shaun Does FM. I hope you are doing well, and as you would have been able to tell by the thumbnail for today's episode, we are moving to our fourth club of the Sabre. It is time to say goodbye to this very good young team that we have built up here at Cardiff City, just as they are about to take part in the Champions League for the first time. We are going to ditch them and join Arsenal instead for what is quite a hefty pay rise. So we're going to get into the contract negotiations shortly. But if you are looking forward to today's episode, or if you are new around here with this change of club, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video. And if you haven't done so already and like the look of this series here on the channel, then also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But yesterday, we ended things with this job offer having come in. Of course, during yesterday's episode, we also started to do some transfer work for Cardiff. Heading into this upcoming season, we are going to be taking part in the Champions League. And also, we had a job interview with Manchester City, which is actually the reason we've got this Arsenal job, because the previous manager ditched Arsenal, which is why we ended up as the favourite and got this job offered to us. So if you missed the episode, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. But before we do go into contract negotiations here with Arsenal, a quick look at what we are leaving behind here at Cardiff City. It is a very good young squad. A few older heads in there, in the likes of Facundo Farias and Francisco Mexado, albeit players like Emil Forst would have actually started for this upcoming season. So apart from the goalkeeper, a really good, promising young squad, but they are still predicted to only finish 14th in the Premier League this upcoming season, while Arsenal are expected to be right in a title fight, as you would expect, of course, with Arsenal just around about 14 months ago, having picked up both the Champions League and the Premier League in the same season. So it does make a fair bit of sense to go and join Arsenal, and hopefully we can get them back to those heights, going gun for glory at Arsenal. The only slight concern, of course, was the fact they have signed a player while they did not have a manager, and for a fee as well of £53 million, even though they sold him only a few years ago to Norwich for £5 million. That does still seem like a terrible bit of transfer business, but hopefully we can do some better work off the back of accepting this job offer. So first off, we are going to get into these negotiations before we do make the move to Arsenal and try and find a house to stay in while we are in London. So first off, here is what they are offering us. They want us to take £110,000 a week. I think we might just nudge this up and maybe try and get a £100,000 a week wage increase from what we are currently on at Cardiff City. We'll see if they accept that. They want us to go down a bit further. We'll try and press our case here a little bit more. And indeed, they have accepted. So we are going to Arsenal for £125,000 a week. So that should mean we can get a pretty good place to stay in. We might even move to buying a house, to be fair, because I don't know if there'll be the suitable type of accommodation for an Arsenal manager that you can get through renting. But I think it is time, before we do make this move, to do some house hunting. So we are making the move from Cardiff to London, and in particular around about the Shenley area, as that is where Arsenal do have their training grounds. So there were two properties that we could have rented that I found, but to be fair, both of them are in a water tower area, which doesn't actually sound that attractive, and the best looking of the places includes the name Blenheim in it. I'm from Nelson, New Zealand. Blenheim's like our little rival town next to us, so that just immediately puts me off renting a house immediately if that's the best that we can do. So with that in mind, we are going a little bit further abroad, albeit it is only a 20-minute drive around about to the training ground. So I think that's something that we can cope with. So instead, we are going to buy a house for the first time in the save. That is because, of course, now we are earning a ridiculous amount of money. So instead, we are going to go to this place, which apparently is under offer, I believe. You're darn right it's under offer, because I've just put that in with Sue Tribus. This is on Valley Road. It's around about valued £3 million, but no doubt we've earned that money since we have been at Cardiff City. And having a look at this place, it does look rather luxurious, quite fit for a manager of a big football team in England. There you can see there's even a pool table, which is going to be lots of fun when we get the boys around for some team bonding in the pre-season. Nice big bedrooms, Very, very nice indeed. They've even got a tiled bathroom, which is nice. Wish I had one of those in my own house. Nice little upstairs area for any of the children, not that I have any, and a nice little outdoor area as well with a little playground. So that does look like a great old time. Also in there as well, it looks like there's a nice little outdoor area so that some of the players might be able to sleep over if they are looking for a house after we do sign them. So it does look like a very nice property, this one. So I think this is what we are going to go with, and with that in mind, we can officially make the move to Arsenal. And before we can actually make the move to Arsenal, we have to go through the pre-season team meeting at Cardiff. So this is going to be a bit awkward because I'm about to ditch all these fellas, but we'll get into this welcome before the pre-season. Yeah, I'm about to leave, guys. Sorry. Yeah, let's try and finish in the top half. Unrealistic. No, Goran, honestly, no wonder I'm leaving, mate. We did finish 5th last season, so, come on. Mid-table, okay. Why am I doing this, Football Manager? Why am I doing this? Go well in the FA Cup, guys. Hopefully, if we play you, we beat you. Just what I wanted to hear. Don't want to make any promises because I'm not going to be here. Code of contact, all good. Great response. Bye, guys. I'm off to Arsenal. And off the back of that very awkward goodbye/team meeting before the new season at Cardiff City, we have officially joined Arsenal. There you can see, apparently a move which is going to spark plenty of heated debate. I kind of get that, leaving Cardiff for a team also in the Champions League, but it is fair to say that Arsenal are a much more favoured team to take out the title than Cardiff, where it will be interesting to see who they hire as their new manager. That's something we can keep an eye out on during today's episode. Also, I am bringing quite a few of the staff from Cardiff City with us as well, because some of the staff at Arsenal were not that good, but of course this is our 4th club of the save, having spent the most time previously at Cardiff City, but also before then Linfield and Banbridge Town in Northern Ireland. So definitely the biggest club that we have taken charge of so far in this save, and they do expect us to finish in a Champions League qualifying place, so a very Arsenal target there for the Premier League. And in terms of the other competitions, just go as deep as we can, I think, is what they were asking of us. Of course, fiercest rivals are Tottenham, 5-star reputation club. This is going to be a lot of fun, and also what we're going to do in today's episode is spend that £93 million transfer budget. One of the big reasons we did come here, the wage budget was 5 times what it was over at Cardiff City, and also we should be able to attract some much better players than we were able to do over in Wales. So going forward, there is what the best 11 does currently look like. That front four in particular, Jesus, Odegaard, Saka and Martinelli, that looks lethal, and the defensive midfield and defence, as well as Ramsdale in goal, not too bad either. The first thing I do notice, they are playing a 4-2-3-1, exactly what we were using over at Cardiff City. So hopefully we can just plug in that same tiki-taka tactic that we did use at the end of our time at Cardiff City, and maybe see what else works over the course of the remainder of their pre-season. Of course, they have just come off of the back of the Club World Cup. Here is the club culture. We ran through this a little bit during the job interview in yesterday's episode, but the targets for this season: challenge for the FA Cup, be competitive in the EFL Cup, and qualify for the Champions League. Of course, at the moment, no Champions League objectives, and also the Club World Cup has already finished, but also this season there are going to be improvements to the training facilities and the youth facilities, and going forward from here they do expect us off the back of this upcoming season to start winning and challenging for the Premier League. And there is what the supporter culture and the expectations for them are like, pretty standard stuff, and in terms of the culture it does match up quite nicely to what we were doing last season at Cardiff City anyway. And going forward we'll get through all of this induction stuff that we don't need. There you can see a lot of people from our Cardiff staff that we are now waiting on work permits to be granted for, but we have now made the jump to Arsenal. So we'll just do some stuff here, get to know the supporter profile. We saw a bit of this, as I said, in yesterday's episode. Interesting to see the supporters' influence on the board is only low, so it turns out that Arsenal Fan TV doesn't have that much impact on what the board think there at Arsenal. But I think it's time for me now to go through and plug in the tactics that are suggested for us, and then we'll see what the squad does look like and what we need to do in the rest of this transfer window. And we've plugged in our 3 tactical styles here suggested by our assistant manager for this Arsenal team. Thankfully, the tiki-taka, which we did use late at Cardiff last season, is suitable for this Arsenal team. So I think this is the one we are going to start with, also with a 4-2-3-1. We can also apparently use a gegenpress. This team is quite a fit one, especially compared with what we did have over at Cardiff City. So that is something that we can just use in case of emergency. And also a vertical tiki-taka as well is suitable for these guys. We didn't have that much success with this at Cardiff City last season, the early stages, albeit these guys would have used this tactical style under their previous manager, as that is what he was most well known for. But I think we're going to start off with a tiki-taka style, and as you can see, overall it is a very strong Arsenal squad. We have just changed our wing backs from what the game suggested in terms of the best 11. I actually think that Tomiyasu and Kieran Tierney are better suited attribute-wise for that wing-back role than the likes of Zinchenko and Wilfred Zingo, but going down onto that bench, because I think the first team, apart from the wing-back areas, kind of picks itself, apart from the fact as well that Kamara is more of a centre-back, but he is currently our best deep-lying playmaker, which does make you wonder why they signed Sambi Lokonga for £53 million as a backup option. That transfer continues to look really, really weird. Would have been nice to have that extra £50 million for this transfer window, but going down, they've got some very good bench players like Zinchenko, Trincao, Fabio Vieira, and going down further, Josko Gvardiol. That is a very good centre-back to have on your bench, albeit only 3-star current ability and potential here at Arsenal, which does suggest they have some very, very good defensive options. He is wanted at the moment too. I believe that is by Chelsea and Real Madrid, so maybe that's something we need to keep an eye out over the course of today's episode. Also going down a bit further, still got the likes of Benjamin White, albeit he's a player we might need to look at getting rid of with only 2.5 stars current ability and 2.5 stars potential, and a few promising youngsters in the overall squad in the likes of Jan Pulic as well as Yanir Grass and Bayron Saisel in particular. He looks like quite a promising defensive midfielder come attacking midfielder, also a familiar face from Cardiff. This was a player that they signed off us fairly early on in our time there. Daniel Langley, I think we're going to sell him again because he's done very little here at Arsenal and back at Cardiff in the one season he did spend there. I believe that was before we took charge. 2 games, conceded 4 goals, 5.5 average rating. Why is he at a club like Arsenal? So I think that's another player we are going to look to sell. But going over to the squad planner for this tiki-taka style, which we are using, our backup goalkeepers are very weak. So that is an area we are going to try and freshen things up, get rid of both of those backups, the other backup as well as Langley. So we're going to have to get a few, or at least one goalkeeper in to be the backup to Aaron Ramsdale. In terms of right back, some solid options. So maybe that's an area as well we could look to improve. In terms of centre back, a few good options there, albeit maybe we're going to have to fend off some bids for Guardiola. In terms of left back, again, quite well served with Kieran Tierney and Zinchenko, and also there's a decent promising left back down in our under-21s defensive midfield. We're quite well served here as well with Coop Miners and Manuel Aguate as the backup, as well as Impey, who is a promising player, albeit might be someone we do loan out for this upcoming season. I suppose the area of concern might still be a deep-lying playmaker, because Kamara could shift back to his more suited position as a centre-back, and we could definitely get someone a bit better than Sambi Lokonga. I suppose the bit about that, though, is the fact they've just spent £53 million on him, so that does now look like a very weird transfer, but that might be the first area we do go looking for. Do we go for Khalid El-Bloshi from Cardiff City, a player who is very good and promising, and we know plenty about? In terms of right wing, Bukayo Saka, absolute nailed-on starter. Jan Pulic, quite promising, but maybe that's another area we could just improve that drop-off so that if Saka gets injured, we're not too bad off, albeit in the other areas of that attacking midfield, we have some quite good backups in behind Ødegaard. It is Vera, as well as youngsters in Sterling, Amber Hardy and out left, Gabriel Martinelli, Francisco Trincao. That is a very strong area of the squad. And also up front, Gabriel Jesus and Brian Robbie, who in these FM saves usually causes me a few headaches, yet again a player wanted by a big club overseas, this time Paris Saint-Germain, so might be a similar case there to Gvardiol, and with only 3-star current ability and potential, might be a player who, if a big bid does come in for him, we might not be able to turn that down, might just look to replace him with a cheaper player, but that is what the squad does look like. For this upcoming season, there are some players, obviously, who were in that squad list before. We are going to look to get rid of the likes of Langley, Ben White, also Calvert-Lewin up front. But overall, it's quite a good squad here at Arsenal, and we still have around about that £94 million transfer budget to try and improve it. But I think the first area that we are going to look to improve is an actually good natural deep-lying playmaker who's a bit better than Kamara, so he can go back to centre-back, as well as Sambi Lokonga, who I still don't know why Arsenal have spent that much money on. And we've gone for a few days off the back of taking this job at Arsenal. We have done our first bit of transfer business, albeit it's a bit of an interesting one. No one wanted to put a transfer bid in for Ben White, so we are going to loan him out to Porto for the rest of the season, still paying quite a bit of his wage. But the main thing with this deal, 12.5 million is an optional future fee for Porto, as well as installments of an extra 12.5 million as well. So overall, this transfer could end up being worth 25 million. Hopefully that is what happens. But as we mentioned earlier, Ben White with that 2.5-star current ability and potential, not someone who was going to get a lot of game time here at Arsenal this season, especially with the likes of Gvardiol still here as a backup. It's an area we are very, very deep into. This is the first player we are going to get rid of. Hopefully this does become a transfer at the end of this loan and he joins Porto on a permanent. The first player to leave the club is Ben White, off to Porto on loan for now, but hopefully at the end of this season on a permanent for £25 million. And going forward a few more days, we've done our second big transfer of this window in terms of an outgoing, but in less surprising news, I wouldn't even call this one a big transfer. We've got rid of Daniel Langley. Still don't understand why Arsenal even had this player, but he has gone to Newcastle, having not made a single appearance for the club, for just under £1 million. That's actually a very profitable transfer for a player who never stepped foot on the pitch as a first-team player. So they've actually done quite well off of that transfer off of us at Cardiff a few years ago. But Daniel Langley is out of the door and for quite a healthy profit as well. But this transfer that we have just made in terms of an outgoing might be a little bit controversial. Josko Gvardiol is off to Real Madrid. The fee that they are going to pay for him is over his transfer value listed at the club. I know in Football Manager he is supposed to be a really good centre-back, but in this team, 3-star current ability, 3-star potential, doesn't look that great. He has got a lot of pros, not many cons, but we are going to get a big fee for this guy, having only spent 28 million on him at the start of last season. So even though he is a player in Football Manager who usually ends up being quite good, Josko Gvardiol, the interest from Real Madrid in the end was too good to turn down. Also, he wanted the move, so I don't think there would have been too much that we could have done if we turned it down. I think he would have kicked up quite a fuss. So our second transfer of this window is also an outgoing, Josko Gvardiol off to Real Madrid for £45 million. And going forward a few more days, we are about to make our first signing of our time here at Arsenal as an incoming. It is the deep-lying playmaker we were looking for, but it is not Khalid El-Bloshy, which might be a bit of a surprise, of course, with him being under us at Cardiff City. We've actually found someone who is a bit cheaper. Of course, Khalid El-Bloshy had an £80 million release clause at Cardiff, and fair play to them, they did stick to that. So instead, we are going to spend £59,052 up front for Moise Pelé from Club Bruges over in Belgium. And to be fair to him, in terms of attributes, he is actually slightly better than Khalid El-Bloshy with that 3.5-star current ability and 5-star potential. So because of that, don't actually know if we are going to bring that many, if any, Cardiff players with us here to Arsenal, because Khalid El-Bloshy was certainly the pick of the bunch there. All those players like Enes Sully and Goran Jovic only have 3-star potential here at Arsenal, so certainly not quite as much potential as they had back at Cardiff City, but this is going to be our first transfer. He looks really well suited to that deep-lying playmaker role, certainly better than both Kamara and especially Sambi Lokonga for a pretty similar price. Not really too sure why they didn't sign this guy in the first place, especially considering he is 21 years old instead of 29, like Sambi Lokonga, but he's done quite well recently at Club Brugge in a few seasons after starting his career off at Ostende, but that is going to be our first signing to fill that first team spot as a deep-lying playmaker. It also means Kamara can drop back to a centre-back to replace those outgoings of Guardiola and Ben White, but Moise Pillay will be our first signing here at Arsenal. And our next bit of transfer business here at Arsenal is yet another outgoing. This time it's a player who, to be fair, was not in our plans for this upcoming season and was lurking down in the under-21s. This is Mario Palermo. He is technically listed as a fullback, but you have a look at his attributes. He is definitely more of a centre-back, especially being 1.93 metres tall, but 2.5-star current ability and potential. Definitely a player who I thought we should be getting rid of, even though he is only 22 years old. And to be fair, we have got a decent bid in for him from Herfa, so he is going to leave us for £19.5 million. It could go up a little bit more after 50 league appearances, and also there is 20% of profit from that next sale, but that does mean yet again we are getting rid of a centre-back, so maybe now we do need to add just a little bit more depth in that area. And I have found an issue here with this Arsenal squad, and to be fair, it's probably something I should have sorted out earlier, and it would have made a lot more sense if I had signed El Bloshy instead of Pillay before, because it would have helped sort out this issue just a little bit. But if we go over and have a look at the squad registration for this upcoming season, once I tick all of these players who are over the age of 21, you will notice that we do not have enough homegrown players, so we definitely need to sort that out. It means at the moment we can't actually register Moise Pillay, albeit we could get rid of someone higher up like a Maria Palermo, to be fair, seeing as he is about to leave, but it does mean there is a bit more wiggle room here to get in another player, and we probably need to get some players in who are homegrown nation, and also, especially because there are some players homegrown nation who we are going to try and get rid of, in particular Dominic Calvert-Lewin, so it does mean we probably need a few more of those if we are going to fill out our homegrown registration needs for this upcoming season. And as well as that, for the Champions League, we might only have 3 players at the club who are actually homegrown at club, so that is a bit of a concern as well, with Ben White of course being out on loan, as well as Impey. Buhari is underbid to go out on loan to Stoke, so that means that Hyde Sterling, one of our backup attacking midfielders, Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli are the only homegrown club players here at the moment, so that might be what we have to do with our next couple of transfers. And with us still having £66 million in the transfer budget, that will go up shortly to around about that £80 million mark, but I think that does mean for our next couple, we should look to add a little bit of extra squad depth with some players who are homegrown nation, and hopefully as well grab someone homegrown at club. And going forward a few more days, there's quite a bit of news coming up in this update. As you can see, quite a few of our staff who are coming here from Cardiff City have finally had their work permits accepted, so hopefully it does mean they are going to be joining our coaching staff very shortly and might be able to add a little bit more depth to some of our areas at the club at the moment, especially scouting, as that is a bit bare at the moment. But we are about to make our next signing here at Arsenal, our second one since we have taken charge. It is a centre-back. It says he's a full-back, but very similar to the player in Palermo who we did just sell. This guy is a lot better at that centre-back role, and this is Kwesi Yakubu out of Fulham. The reason we are signing him, homegrown nation. He will cost us $50 million overall, but only $36 million up front, which does mean we'll still have around about £40 million to play with for some more signings, but he will join us as a squad player, and he is fairly highly rated. 3-star current ability with that 5-star potential. He does have a few areas of weakness in terms of what he does do, but when you put him as a ball-playing defender, but in terms of a central defender on that defensive duty, he does look quite well suited, so could be the backup to Bamba in that role for us this upcoming season. In terms of the pros and cons, there's certainly a few things I don't like there. Not very consistent is injury prone and doesn't enjoy big matches, but we needed someone who was homegrown nation, and considering he will be a squad player for us, I felt like this was the best thing that we can do and does prop up our centre-back area off the back of getting rid of Ben White, of Guardiola, as well as Palermo. So coming to us from Fulham, it will be Kwesi Yakubu overall for £50 million, and also going forward a little bit more. Monaco have made an offer for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, albeit that is very, very low, so we are going to reject that one. Hopefully some clubs do come in with some more sensible offers in the future, but also Bahari, that other player who was homegrown club, we are going to loan him out because we are quite stacked in that central attacking midfield area, so he can go out and get some game time in the Championship with Stoke for this season. But we have made our second signing as an incoming, and that is Yakubu from Fulham, to boost our centre-back stocks as well as that homegrown nation quota. And we've gone forward into the month of August for our next transfer, and we are getting rid of our other backup goalkeeper, so it does mean that is probably the other area that next up we do need to add another player to the squad. Hopefully we can find someone as a backup goalkeeper who is homegrown either at club or in nation, but Jasper Thorkildsen is going to go to Zenit for a fee of £10 million. He was our backup here, but not a very good one, albeit attribute-wise, not that bad, but 2-star current ability and potential. Certainly felt like we could do a bit better than that on the backup front. Hopefully get someone who, even though might be the same current ability, hopefully does have a bit more potential, so we do have someone who can take over in the long run from Aaron Ramsdale, seeing as he is these days 31 years old, but we signed him a few seasons ago for £1.7 million. We are making quite a good profit from that deal, but Jasper Thorkildsen is leaving the club for £10 million. And a few days off the back of that prior sale of the backup goalkeeper, finally Dominic Calvert-Lewin has decided to leave the club. There were a few Championship teams in from off the back of that offer that we did turn down from Monaco, but unfortunately did not want to drop down to that level, so instead he is going to City A to join up with Lazio. The transfer should rise overall to a fee of £16 million, but up front we are going to get just over £12.5 million, and for a player at 32 years old with that 2.5-star current ability and potential, that does feel like a good deal, even though we are getting rid of one of our homegrown nation players. Hopefully we can get someone a bit younger to potentially be a backup striker in behind the likes of Robbie and Jesus up front. So Dominic Calvert-Lewin is going to leave us here at Arsenal, the 32-year-old. Also, they are asking for us to decide on our squad, but I imagine we're going to run into exactly the same issue that we did earlier, and that is we still can't quite register everyone that we want because we need that one extra homegrown player slot. So maybe that is something that we still need to sort out, especially off the back of getting rid of Calvert-Lewin. It probably means we actually need 2 more, so certainly still some transfer work to do. And off the back of this sale, it means that we should have around about £60 million to play with as well. And just one click on from getting rid of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, we have sorted out one of those homegrown players coming into the club. We are going to sign the former Liverpool man and Fulham man, and Fabio Carvalho is a backup right winger to Bukayo Saka, a bit better than Jan Pulic in that area. And of course he is homegrown club. We do have some interesting options in this area. First off, we did try and sign Emile Smith-Rowe from Brighton, but unfortunately they wanted a little bit more than we were willing to pay. But of course he would have been a homegrown club player, which would have been quite useful. After that, we had a look at Jadon Sancho, but he was after far too high of a wage, around about the £450,000 a week mark, which was just way more than we could afford here at Arsenal. So I suppose our third option is what Fabio Carvalho is, for £40 million overall, £32 million up front. He is going to join us as that backup right winger in behind Bukayo Saka. Will go forward so you guys can see what he does look like, because of course our scouting here still a little bit muddled up, as you can see. Not an overly great looking signing with that 3-star current ability and potential, but as I said, a bit of an upgrade on our previous backup in Jan Pulic, so it does mean we're a bit stronger in that area if we do get an injury to Bukayo Saka, which could be quite important here at Arsenal, and also, even though he is only 3-star current ability and potential, he does look pretty good in those attributes that we are going to use for an inverted winger on support. So fairly happy with that transfer, even though ideally we would have got someone like Emile Smith-Rowe. Fabio Carvalho joins us for around about £40 million. And going forward again, this time we're only about a week out from the start of the Premier League season, so probably not too much longer to go in today's episode, which has been quite full of transfer action. But this update, there is quite a bit going on. Ignore that top one there, because that is for a coach here at Arsenal, because we do still need a few more of those, as Cardiff have actually pitched a few of our coaches off us, and there could be a reason for that, because if we go over and have a look at who their manager is these days, it is none other than Mikel Arteta, the former Arsenal man at the start of this save. So that is who they have replaced us with, which might actually make sense of the fact that he is coming in for some of his former staff he would have had here at Arsenal, but he has left Everton to join Cardiff, which is definitely an upgrade in the save universe. A little bit disappointed, because it did look like for a while they were going to appoint Ange Postecoglou, which would have been so much fun over on Twitch, of course, if something like that happened, because of course we are doing a save over there where we follow Ange around and try and beat him, currently at Montpellier while he is at PSG. But the main reason that we are coming back is because we have got a few updates on some signings and a sale. So first off, there was the chance that Brian Brobby was going to get a bid put in for him by Paris Saint-Germain. Indeed, that has happened quite late over the course of today's episode, and we have accepted it. Overall, this transfer could rise to £52 million, which is just above his transfer value, and it does mean we will get 35.5 up front for this one. But Brian Brobby was only going to be a backup in behind Gabriel Jesus this season, and it does mean we could, in theory, replace him with a younger striker, and he might not need to be homegrown as well, because we've got some deals in the works for that situation. So hopefully it does mean that we might have sorted out our homegrown issues once we do get a replacement in for both him and Calvert-Lewin. But we're going to sell him, as I said, it could rise up to £52 million, a decent profit after Arsenal signed him a few seasons ago for £35 million off of Real Madrid. But Brian Brobby, even though he is quite lethal in front of goal, is going to leave us. But we have already sorted out a deal for a backup. He is joining us from Real Madrid, and this is Manuel Balea, 21 years old, which does mean he doesn't actually need to be registered for this upcoming season, so it might help us out in terms of registration for the Premier League. 26 million up front, 2.5-star current ability, 4-star potential, pretty similar in terms of finishing. Some of those other attributes, especially mentally and physically, aren't quite as good, but certainly a striker with a lot of potential. So hopefully, with some game time off of the bench, he can develop into a decent long-term prospect for us here at Arsenal. But there is the replacement for Brian Brobby, and he is a little bit cheaper as well, which does mean we have some funds we can invest into some other areas of the squad. And also, we have signed a new backup goalkeeper. This is Claudio Maluccio out of Empoli in Italy. He will join us for 13 million up front, but the transfer will rise up to £23 million overall. 22 years old, 2-star current ability, 4-star potential, very similar to that backup striker that we did just sign. He will sit in behind Aaron Ramsdale, maybe get some game time in the cup competitions, but with that potential, should be someone who can step into that first team role, especially once Aaron Ramsdale does come towards the end of his time here at Arsenal. But two decent young signings there for us, a bit more suited to what we're trying to do here at Arsenal compared to the signings of the likes of Fabio Carvalho, which is to fill up that homegrown nation quota that we do need to sort out. But Maluccio and Barrea do join us as we get rid of Brian Brobby. And with only 3 days left before we take on Everton in our first game of the Premier League season, which we're going to show you guys in tomorrow's episode, I think this might be the last transfer that does come through during the course of today's episode. As you can see, we are signing another striker. This was someone we got out of Brazil for a £15 million release clause once we did get rid of some clauses which brought some money into the club from some previous transfers. But Temujin Florenzano is going to join us as that third choice striker. Very promising player, 20 years old, so doesn't need to be registered. That looks like a very good bit of business. Hopefully he turns out to be a good long-term striker here at Arsenal in the future and can also cover the left wing and the right wing as well. He will come to us from Palmeiras. Need to sort out that name fix, seeing as this is one of the first episodes that we have recorded since the winter update did come out. Hopefully it means our tactics are still decent, but of course with that in mind, we did still need another homegrown player, and we have found one, and rather hilariously, he's a better deep-lying playmaker than Sambi Lokonga, and he costs a little bit cheaper as well. Charlie Patino from Wolves is who we are going to sign now. To be fair, overall this transfer is going to look very similar in terms of a deal financially to that Sambi Lokonga one, in that it is quite a poor one, but he is a homegrown club player, unlike Sambi Lokonga, and we need one of those, and he's also better than him for that deep-lying playmaker role, so that is why we are getting Charlie Patino in. And another reason for that is instead of getting Florenzano, I was hoping we could get Emre Tezgel from Stoke City as a third-choice homegrown striker, but unfortunately, Tottenham came in and hijacked the deal, so instead of coming to us here at Arsenal, he has gone to Tottenham, which does seem a little bit strange considering he is on a lower wage there in Tottenham. Don't have European football this season, so I would say he is unlikely to get quite as much game time there as he might have gotten here in some of the cup competitions, but he can go and get stuff now, seeing as he is joined Spurs, so instead we went after Charlie Patino to fill up that homegrown nation quota, and especially because he is homegrown at club as well. So we'll just go forward a little bit so you can actually see how he is rated in terms of his star attributes. It's not great looking, 2.5-star current ability and 3-star potential, but as I said, compared to Sambi Lokonga, he is actually a little bit better, and of course, homegrown at club. Still don't understand why they spent 53 million on that guy, but nonetheless, he's probably just going to sit on our bench for most of this season, and so will Charlie Patino. Might make his way onto the field as a substitute, but to be fair, might not be the worst bit of business, seeing as he joined Wolves from us under previous management. We are going to get a fair bit of our money back for that transfer, but still that is a deal where we are making a significant loss, but thought it might be necessary as he was the only homegrown nation club player that we could find heading into the start of the season so that we could fill out our squad, but Charlie Patino will join us as yet another backup deep-lying playmaker. And that will do it for transfers for today's episode. Still waiting on that work permit to come through for the young Brazilian striker, and that will probably be our last bit of business unless we do sell some other players before we do get to the transfer deadline off the back of our first couple of games in the Premier League over the course of the rest of this week and maybe early next week as well. But a quick look at what those transfers have done to our starting lineup here at Arsenal. As you can see, it hasn't actually changed that much. It just means that Pelé does come in as the starting deep-lying playmaker, and Patino will make his way onto the bench, and also actually Trincao should be there as well, albeit he is currently injured but could make his way off of the bench to play 60 minutes in that first game of the season against Everton, but ideally we won't use him for that one. But overall our bench does look, I would say, a little bit younger and hopefully a few more players with potential than we did have when we got here at Arsenal. But in terms of our starting 11, it is quite similar, just that one change in Pelé coming in, which does mean that the likes of Kamara can act as both a defensive midfield and centre-back cover off of the bench. And when we do put out a rotated team, he can start as one of the centre-backs. And going down further, we do have some quite promising players in amongst our reserves as well. So I'd like to think our squad, even though in terms of actual ability, might not be quite as strong, because we did get rid of some pretty good players, the likes of Guardiola, Calvert-Lewin, as well as Brian Brobby. Hopefully for the next couple of years, we have just started to sort things out so that we do have some players with a bit of potential, and also we have sorted out those homegrown issues, which were quite bad actually when we did get here at the club. Not too sure how they've got away with registering players in the Champions League and the Premier League over the last few seasons, but over the course of today's episode, we have sorted that out, and it does mean that all of these players here in our first team squad can feature in this upcoming season, albeit a few of them might miss out when we do get into the Champions League. But that will do it for today's episode. Also, season preview-wise, we are still expected to finish third, but I think our odds have actually come in, so our squad has been improved a little bit over the course of today's episode, according to the bookmakers, just behind Man City and Liverpool, and then a big drop off back to the likes of Newcastle, Chelsea, Tottenham, and Man United, and Cardiff are still all the way down in 14th place. So it does look like we have made the right move, albeit the squad is a fair bit older than that one we did have at Cardiff, but also in terms of quality, a lot better as well. If only we have 53 million more pounds to spend instead of having wasted it on Sambi Lokonga before I got here. But that will do it for today's episode. If you enjoyed those transfers plus that move to Arsenal from Cardiff, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you enjoyed today's episode and are looking forward to the rest of our time here at Arsenal, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well so you do not miss out on a new episode. Also for you Cardiff fans, I'll leave a save file link down in the description as well if you want to pick up where we left off at the start of today's episode, which I dare say might be a popular one, as that Cardiff team did have some very promising players in it. And to be fair to me, we have not rated any of them over the course of today's episode, even though we probably should have actually signed our Bloshy instead of Pelé, and it would have helped us out a bit on those homegrown requirements. But we'll come back for the start of the Premier League season in tomorrow's episode. And to be fair, I haven't looked at the schedule too much. As you can see, over the course of the pre-season, we did win all of our games, closely pushed by Sheffield United with a backup team. But to be fair, Sheffield United are in the Premier League these days, so that is not that bad of a result. But we'll come back tomorrow and play our 2 games in the month of August. We start off at home to Everton. That is definitely a game we should be winning. Interesting to see how they get on with Unai Emery in charge these days, having replaced Mikel Arteta after he left for our past job in Cardiff City. And then a tough matchup as we travel to take on Newcastle away from home. We should definitely win the first of those games, but that Newcastle one could be very interesting indeed, and hopefully our tiki-taka style does prove to be useful over the course of that episode, and we'll see if we maybe need to make any more moves before we do get into transfer deadline day. But that will be what's coming up in tomorrow's episode. So until then, thank you very much for watching, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.